everybody, and welcome to a new visual novel I'm doing called The Letter. And right off the bat, I'm going to apologize because I'm not going to be providing the music because I can't control the volume of this game. And the second thing is I can't make it full screen. So I apologize for those two things. Alright? So I apologize once again because it's too small and there's no music. So let's start it, and starting it is actually salutation. I don't get why that's start, but whatever. Look at, I hate the word cute, but I love the word interesting. I hate it when you open up your diary and write, "It was so hot today that," but I love the season itself. I hate loud noises, but when there are voices raised in heated argument, I don't mind them so much. I hate those who tear you down with their words and actions, but I love those who quietly build you up even when you don't deserve it. I hate being called a simpleton, but I'd rather be a simpleton than someone who uses his God-given talents to take advantage of others. I hate working hard, but I hate laziness so much more than that. I hate it when you blame others for your failures, but I love it when you keep moving forward no matter what. I hate the fact that soon you'll be gone, never to return. So, these are my last words of love to you. My last letter. Oh. The letter. Okay. I got off the train. I was greeted by a rush of air so warm I could feel myself melting away. Summer, of course. Not the hottest day on record, but plenty hot enough. I wiped my brow, took one step, then another. Couldn't let this weather get me down. Okay, somebody whistled. A gigantic mechanical whistle pierced the still air and shook me where I stood. The train was leaving. Its restless slumber was no more. But I did not watch it go. I just sighed. The train vanished into the distance. So did the sound. I could hear the cicadas in chorus. Cicadas? I know those are bugs, but I don't know how to pronounce the word. Faintly, as if I were underwater. The places inside me were drowning in silence. Things are alive when they're in motion. When they die, they stop moving. But I was standing still, in darkness and silenced, standing still. So I took one step, then another, past the cracked paint and splintered wood. One of these, out of this old abandoned train station. It was bright, too bright. I had to squint. I brought a hand up to shield my face. Rather, it came up by reflex. But it wasn't any protection. I could imagine the sun laughing at my feeble attempts. I felt, rather than heard, someone rustle to the ground. I looked down. My bag had opened slightly, and there was a letter at my feet. The paper was yellow and crackling. It had seen better days. A keepsake from long ago, from my childhood. A voice. Someone's voice. I picked the letter up, carefully put it back in my bag. Finally, I said to myself, I've come back. Come back from my distant cityscapes of Tokyo, where the buildings touched the sky and the power lines ensnared the sun. Come back from the only life I knew, filled with lights and intersections and the voices of strangers. Come back to a place without air conditioning or cell phone reception. Come back home. What am I doing here? but there was no one to answer me. Damn, it's hot. Still no luck. A summer day. Just like this one. 8 years ago. Late at night, a phone call. That's where it all began. Without warning. Without a trace. I can still remember how the phone sounded when it rang that night. I was wide awake by the third ring. I remember feeling cold, real cold, even though it was summer. I could hear my mom say, "Hello?" into the phone. Softly, she didn't want to wake me. But it was too late for that. I remember looking at the clock. It was around midnight. I was young. I was waiting for what would happen next. Mom said, "Who is this?" "Oh, why hello. Yes, this is she." Her voice was so slow and so far away, but not far enough for me to miss what she said next. "He's passed away?" I almost jumped out of my bed, because I was young, very young, but not young enough to have an idea what passed away meant. I broke out into a cold sweat. Blood drained from my face. I got dizzy all of a sudden. It was like the earth had split apart from under my feet. I was in free fall. Like I said, I was young, very young. Young enough to understand that it really was this simple. When you die, you can't meet your friends and family anymore. When you die, you can't be on this earth anymore. When you die, your spirit isn't in your body anymore. Okay, enough of this when you die. When you die, you stop moving. I couldn't see the smell of I couldn't see or smell or hear or taste anything anymore. The world wiped away from me. Wiped around me. Whipped around me. God damn, I suck at reading. Was I standing still now? It was forever. Mom came to me, eventually. The world stopped spinning. But what she said set my world ablaze. "Listen, Takahiro. Listen closely. Daddy saved a boy from being hit by a car. And the boy is safe, but he's gone now. He's dead." She said everything so slowly, searching deep inside herself for the right words. I was searching too, but I had no words, right or wrong. There was nothing in front of me, there was nothing behind me. Just pure darkness, or pure light. I remember that Mom said a few things to me then, but I don't remember what they were. She left. I kept crying. Crying and crying, until I had no more tears left to shed. I don't remember how long it was until I came to. He was dead. I was still alive. I don't know if I felt sad, but I know I felt scared and alone. Something was eating into me, and I couldn't escape. Sometime that night, I fell asleep. It was heavy and dreamless, so I would forget everything. "15 minutes. The station was far behind me. The sun was merciless. There wasn't a part of me that wasn't covered with sweat. I belong here, huh? What a thought. My old hometown, faces and places for a time long gone. My time, no doubt? No, not at all." I shook my head. Big drops of sweat showered down onto my clothes and to the ground. My clothes were so soaked that they must have weighed triple their dry weight. God. Uncomfortably warm and sticky. Several kilometers out now, at the foot of a hill. A few more minutes up the hill and I'd be at my parents' place. "It's been a long time since I did this," I muttered. Now the path had 3 large curves in it on the way up, and 2 large caves. Bomb shelters, for all I know. The darkness within pulled at their entrances. The light of the day had no way in. I couldn't help but suppress a shiver. No matter how old I was, I could never quite get over the weird feeling. Back when we were kids, our parents told us all sorts of things about those caves. That bears lived there, for instance, or that the ghosts of long dead soldiers had taken up residence therein. All lies, of course, but effective ones for children. I believed them all. I walked up the slope slowly. It was tough going. I could feel the burn in my thighs. Each step grew easier than the last. Familiar sights and sounds surrounded me, and soon enough, the end was in sight. Then something struck me. Right, I said to myself, and on the hilltop there's... Actually, it wasn't there anymore. Back in the old day, a mailbox used to stand on this spot. Now there were only rice paddies and farming fields as far as the eye could see, plus this road. A lonely place made me want to go forward, or go back. But you couldn't stay here. Those were your choices, no matter where you went. This was also where I received the letter. That reminded me. I opened up my bag, looked inside. Was it still there? Yes, it was. Good. After dropping it at the station, I wasn't about to make that mistake again. Man, this letter. Despite my best efforts, it was dry, frayed at the edges, crumbling away. I stared at it for a moment, and sighed. The sun continued its merciless assault on me. I put the letter back in my bag. It was time for me to make my way home. I could see clouds filled to bursting high overhead. They weren't far away, and they weren't making ominous noises. Very soon then, I said, shaking my head. The south wind whispered past me. It spoke of rain. And it rains. The wind wasn't lying either, so I picked up my pace. Everything was soaked by the time my parents' place came into view. Everything except my bag. That was waterproof, thank goodness. Everything around me was the same. Yet it was not. The rain changed things somehow. For instance, it had soaked my already sweat-soaked t-shirt through and through, making my clothes as heavy as my spirits. I ran for dear life towards the front door. I saw that it was open. There was someone standing there. Mom? It's me, Takahiro, I yelled. I've come home. But Mom couldn't hear me. The cicadas had nothing to do with it. They'd been silent ever since the rain had started. The rain, however, was more than loud enough to make up for that. So I tried calling out again. Mom, it's me! No let up in the rain. No let up in the rain. But this time Mom heard me. Or so it seemed. She turned towards me with a smile. Except for one thing. Something wasn't quite right here. No idea what it was, but this was really weird. I felt totally out of place for a moment. But I got over it soon enough. Had to have been my imagination. I rushed over to where my mom was. I could smell the fragrance of incense even from this distance. My, you're soaked. Did you have much trouble getting here? She asked as I reached for her. No, I answered. Not at all. Silence fell between us for a time, because I couldn't find a way to break it. First time I've seen her in years. There were shadows in her face and lines, neither of which I remembered. I'm kinda tired now, I managed. So, would you mind me if I got some sleep? Oh, of course not. Go ahead. There are blankets in your room, Mom replied with her usual soothed smile. So I quickly changed my clothes and headed into my own room. The room was exactly like as I'd left it. I laid out the blankets, and then I laid myself on them. A sigh escaped from my lips. All that tiredness I have accumulated since the train ride started draining away into the darkness. The brain wasn't letting up anytime soon. I felt alone inside it. It surrounded me and cocooned me. And it guided me into slumber. The bird was twittering when I awoke. Very charming. I got up out of bed and headed out of my room. No more rain. The sun was out in full force, and when I closed my eyes I could feel the rays soaking through my eyelids. "Oh, Takahiro," Mom said, "a good day, isn't it?" I turned to face her, only to find her smiling at me, with a broom in her hands. I smiled back. "Yeah, sure. You're up early, Mom." And honestly, that was my first thought. But Mom wasn't having any of it. "Don't be silly. It's already noon, dear." "Oh, oops." I looked outside. No wonder the sun was so bright, and so high in the sky. Oops. "Then why didn't you wake me up?" I asked sleepily. "Huh," she replied. "It didn't feel right, that's all." I didn't feel right either. There was this sadness in her voice. But it went up quickly as it came. The smile was back on her face in seconds. "It just surprised me, see," Mom continued, "that you didn't even pay your respect to your father before you went to sleep last night. And you didn't even tell him you were coming in the first place. What's going on here?" Her face wrinkled over, this time with concern. I stayed quiet for a while. It seemed like forever. I could feel the sun beating down on me. "All right," I said with a smile. "Might as well go say hi." And I walked past Mom. I could hear her murmuring about how hopeless I was behind my back. I ignored her. I walked through the corridor. The flooring creaked under my feet. The altar room wasn't far away. I stopped at the door. "It's been years, hasn't it?" I whispered. The door slid open smoothly, and came to rest with a snap. The scent of burning incense wafted into my nostrils. I closed the door behind me. No matter how many times I did this, it sent chills down my spine. After all, what place did I have in a room whose master would never return? The entire room was still. I sat cross-legged before the altar. The atmosphere was indescribable, quiet and solemn. It twisted inside me like a knife, or perhaps it chose to. For my part, I chose to stare at the picture of the deceased, who chose to stare back at me with a smile, and without blinking. I sat there in silence for a time. "Good to see you," I finally managed. "Mind if I stay a while?" The stillness of the room was a bit much. It was heavy. It settled on the ground like a chunk of dead air. I could feel it press down on me. But I remained sitting. I wonder why. Maybe it was because something was making me. Or maybe because I wanted to. I'd never know. I did know this. I could call this man Dad or Father. But I had no idea why, or since when. Sometimes it felt like it had been a long time. Other times it felt like just yesterday. Or maybe it was because I didn't come here often enough. It didn't matter what I called him anymore. He'd never answer me either way. He'd never get to talk to me ever again. So I lit up an incense stick and I rang the bell. And I put my hands together. Empty motions and rituals. No emotion behind them. Lather, rinse, repeat. Like some laughable automation. Or was it? Was it animation or automaton? I don't know. Right. This was all laughable. Myself included. Not rebellion, not impudent. Those would never be fine. Just laughable and ridiculous. Suddenly, I did not feel like staying in this Monaslum any longer. Monaslum. I left soon thereafter. We had salmon. We had salmon for lunch that day. Tamagoyaki cucumbers. Tamagoyaki cucumbers and sesame oil on the side. Simple food, simply made, tasty, nostalgic, just like when I was a kid. I mentioned this to Mom. She just laughed. I found myself back in my room. Back in the room I called my own, or called mine. So much smaller than I remembered. Darker. I could smell the sunlight splintered into the dust and shadows. Not a thing had changed in 19 years. At least where this room was concerned. And I liked it this way. The smell, the size, the darkness, everything. The only sanctuary of an only child. I could still remember the day I was told that this room was mine. I was so excited I couldn't go to sleep. My very own place. My very own space. My very own castle. My invisible fortress. Or invincible fortress. Except for the times my mom came and made me clean my room. I hated it. I used to fight and argue. I was a spoiled brat back then. Were all kids so much trouble when they were growing up? Or was it just me? My old desk was over in the corner. It was just as I'd left it, without a master to call its own. So I pulled out the chair, sat down. There, desk, your master is back. The wood creaked. Too late. I just remembered. This clearly was uncomfortable. And some things like this never change. Some time passed. I started wondering what was for dinner. The sound of approaching footsteps grew louder and louder. My door slid open. I looked to see who it was. My mom looked back at me with a smile. She had the western sky at her back. The setting sun poured vague shadows all over her. Thin as a knife, quiet as a dagger, but always so soft. That was Mom for you. So, she said, I'm going off to visit Father's grave. Would you like to come? Well, what? Decisions! Holy shit. You know what, guys? I'm gonna save this for next time, because I gotta be going soon. Okay? So I'll see you guys in the next episode. Later.